Hi everyone, and welcome to Squirrel Pie Productions. My name is Tommi. You can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as DynamiteTrujillo. Welcome to episode 79. It is a beautiful and sunny and warm and breezy Wednesday in July here on the Northern California coast where I'm coming to you from. If you are a new viewer, a big welcome, and if you're a returning viewer, a big welcome back. We have show notes available for this episode in the description box below. You can also find a thread for this episode in the Ravelry group. So for this week's episode, I have a few finished objects. I have a lot of socks to talk about and only 2 sweaters. Don't know. But my first finished object, as you might be able to tell, is my Ursa. I knit the Ursa by Jacqueline Sislak out of Moonstone Dye Works in the Merino DK base held double. So this pattern calls for bulky weight yarn. I used a DK held double. This is the tendril colorway and I love it. I knit and ripped back and knit and ripped back and hey squirrel and knit and ripped back quite a few times on this sweater, both with the body and the sleeves. So I ended up, squirrel, I needed to go do a little kitty attention stuff. Anyway, so here's what I have left over. I used almost a full 4 skeins of yarn, 100 gram skeins of DK weight yarn, and I knit the smallest size. I think that's right. I'm pretty sure that's right. Okay, so let's get up and show you everything and then I will tell you about what I did. So here it is. It is a V-neck, cropped kind of, yeah, it's pretty cropped, sweater. It's bulky weight, long sleeves. I love the back neckline a whole lot. And down the back here, and the front, there is a line of brioche. There's also a panel of brioche here under the arm and one single line of brioche that goes all the way down the inside of the sleeve. Now, the pattern is supposed to have a triangle of brioche right here also. I ended up omitting that, and I'll talk about that in a second. But pretty much, this is it. I really like the neckline. It's a really simple finishing technique. I really like this detail. I love this detail a whole lot. And I also really love that. Okay, there it is. So, I changed a few things about this pattern after knitting it to the pattern. So, I knit the thing. It's top down, and I had the brioche triangle on the front and on the back, and it was fine. It was great. It was okay. I felt a little iffy about it, about how it made the fabric flare, because if you've knit brioche before, you'll know that, for one, gauge is usually pretty different in brioche and in stockinette, in terms of a single person, a single needle, stuff like that. Also, brioche is, you know how ribbing brings fabric in? Brioche kind of does the opposite. It kind of spreads it out a little bit. So there's that. So I was a little skeptical, but I did it. I finished it. I completely finished it. And I was like, it looks really cool. I love it. Okay, so I finished the sleeves. And I did everything exactly to pattern, and then I blocked it. It was totally done, and I blocked it, and I tried it on, and I wasn't happy with it. So the brioche really on me, I don't know about anybody else, but for me, the brioche on this pattern just made the bottom of the sweater really bell out, and it just didn't look right on me. So, and I'll put a picture here because I took a picture of it because I felt really bad that I knit the whole thing to pattern and then I ended up deciding to just rip it almost all out. So I took a picture of kind of what I felt like was problematic So I'll put that here just so that you can see what it was. But so I ended up not liking the brioche. I like it in theory. I liked how it looked not on me, but once I put it on, it just didn't work. So I decided I didn't like that. I also decided that the sleeves were too tight. So I followed the decrease pattern in the sleeves, just according to pattern. But I decided the ends, just the, kind of this portion of the sleeves were just really a little too snug for me. So I ended up wanting to redo those as well. So I ripped back the whole brioche triangle, which was pretty much the bottom of the sweater up to like here. And I also ripped back the sleeves to the very last decrease. And with the sleeves, I just continued all the way to the end again, so that I omitted the last decrease pretty much. And they're great now. I like the length. I like, what is that? Okay, I gotta fix that. Anyway, I like the length. I like how snug they are now. And then for the body, I just picked it back up and knit it straight down. I kept this line all the way to the bottom, and I decided what I wanted to do was just to knit it all stockinette, just like the sleeves. So I knit it all the way down to the end, and then I bound off. And then I blocked it, and I wasn't happy with it because, of course, stockinette, when you bind off just like this, it rolls. Now in a sleeve, it's not that bad because I don't know why, because it's tight, so it doesn't even have a chance to roll. I don't really know. But the sleeves are fine, but this is bothering me. I need to fix that. Hold on. I'm doing it. I'm fixing it. I just put it on the inside. But for the body, there was definitely a really significant roll that was happening, so I was like, okay, I don't like that. So I ripped it back a few rounds and decided to add some just regular ribbing. And I don't know, I decided to do it like the sleeve because I was interested in having the sleeve and the body finishing match, but it's totally fine. The ribbing was definitely the right choice. I went down to needle size. I just did a few rounds of ribbing, and it mostly flows pretty well with the brioche, except for right here, there's 2 purl stitches or something like that. There's 2 knit stitches and a purl stitch where I would have preferred it to be the other way, but who cares? So I ended up being really happy with that. I also, when I was trying to fix the roll at the bottom by just doing different bind offs. So I ripped out and redid the bind off a few times before just deciding to scrap that and do the ribbing. Luckily, I did the ribbing, I bound off. How did I bind off? I don't remember. Oh yeah, I do. I did that kind of bind off where you knit 2 and then knit those 2 together. So I finally ended up being really happy with how it looked. I blocked it again, and it's perfect now. So pretty much what I think I ended up doing was did a mashup of the Ursa and the Ursa Minor. So the Ursa is this one where it has the brioche detailing here, here, and the triangle. And then the Ursa Minor is, I believe this is correct. Could be making this up, but I'm pretty sure it's right. I think it's the same pattern, but all of the brioche is excluded. Maybe there's some brioche, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure there's no brioche at the front at least. Oh, also this is brioche. So anyway, I think I pretty much did the Ursa Minor with the brioche detail. And I'm super happy with it. I really, really like how it came out. I'm so glad I ripped it back and made those changes. And if you've followed my knitting career, you might know that I am the type of person who kind of says F it to ripping back. I don't typically do it. I'm usually okay with like the mistakes or whatever that I've made and I just leave them. But this was not, it wouldn't have been worth it. I really don't think I would have worn it. So I'm super happy that I ripped back, and not only ripped back and reknit it, but I ripped back and just experimented. I knit the same stuff over and over and over again in the sweater. And it was a lot, it was tedious, it was time consuming, but whatever, it's knitting, it's fun. And I ended up with something I'm super happy with. So I'm so stoked. This is a really great pattern. I really, really like it. If you're thinking about knitting it, but like me, were a little bit iffy or skeptical or something about that brioche triangle, but you still really liked it, I don't know, maybe give it a shot. I really love all the rest of the brioche in the pattern, but I like it much better as a plain front with this, because this is super cool, and I really like a V-neck. So that's it. That's my Ursa. That's the story. That's everything I did, right? Right? I had a lot of ends to weave in. Because if you remember, this yarn's been through a lot. This yarn, I originally knit a different sweater altogether and didn't like how it fit because I knit a size that was too small, so I ripped it all out and then knit this, and then I re-knit this a few times. So this yarn, I knit a lot of this with crinkly yarn, which was totally fine. I don't know how much I've done that before, but I did not mind it. Which makes me think I wouldn't mind knitting with a sock blank, which is also something I've never tried. Anyway. Okay. That's it. Moving on to my next FO after I get comfortable, because I got all... So my next FO is a tiny pair of socks. Ah! This is a pair of socks for my daughter Lucy, who is about to turn 1 year old. And pretty much what I did is I stole the concept of the Rose City Rollers Littles pattern and did my own stitch counts. So this is a DK weight sock. The light purplish pink is Cleckheaton Naturals 8-ply, which I don't remember the numbers, but it's a wool acrylic blend, and it's tweedy. And then for the toe and the heel flap, I used Moonstone Dye Works in the Merino DK base, which is the same as this one, in the Belladonna colorway. And I love them. I think they're wonderful. So, the concept that I took from the Rose City Rollers Littles is just that it's a shorty sock with a rolled cuff. There's no ribbing, and I really, really like that style of sock for Lucy. By far my favorite kind of sock. It's like the only kind of sock I knit for her anymore, just because they're great. They're easy to put on. They stay on because I think of the heel flap and gusset. They're awesome. I love them. I highly recommend that pattern if you have a baby that you're knitting for. But that pattern is written for fingering weight yarn, so the stitch counts wouldn't make sense with my DK weight yarn. So I cast on, I wrote it down, I think. Oh, by the way, the Cleckheaton is the Rosewater Pink colorway. And I think I did 36 stitches around. I'm pretty sure that's right. It says in my project page on Ravelry, which I will link to in the show notes below. And so 36 stitches, heel flap and gusset, wedge toe. That's it. That's it. They're great. They're a little big, which is perfect because she can still wear them and she will grow into them. Oh yeah. My next FO is another pair of socks. I finished my fully spun socks and I love them so much. Here they are. Aren't they amazing? I love how mismatched they are so much. I love it when socks don't match. I'm that kind of person. Punky Brewster, all the way. Anyway, so this is fully spun yarn, and it was the original fingering base, original sock base, I think is what it's called, in the brunch colorway. And I did a top-down stockinette sock with 64 stitches on a size 0 needle. This is what I typically do for socks. And I love how the colors came out. I did a heel flap and gusset because that's my favorite. And I did a wedge toe. Typically I do a more rounded toe but for my past couple pairs of socks, I've been experimenting with wedge toes again, and I really like them. That's cool. So the color progression in this yarn, as you can see, is a thing. It progresses in color, and in sort of a hand spun kind of style. And there were definitely portions where I was done with a certain color. I wanted to move on to the next color. So I here and there took out portions of yarn. And so I have a few little tiny balls of different, like I have a little ball of this like purple and white section. I have a little ball of like just the gold. I really, really like the pink foot on this sock. I love them. They fit great. They're awesome. And I love them. Okay. On to whips. And talk about transitions. I am using all of those tiny little leftovers from my last FO in some Rose City Rollers Littles propers for Lucy. So I just, oh my gosh. I'm all tangled here. So I decided to take what was left over. I had 21 grams left over, plus those tiny little balls that I had taken out. So I decided to make Lucy a pair of matching socks. And I'm using the Rose City Rollers pattern. I'm doing the 9 to 12 month size, which I want to say is 40 something stitches. Anyway, so the cake I'm using right now, which is what I ended with from my last socks, is this. It's the same yarn. It's fully spun in the original sock in the brunch colorway. Here's what I have so far. I'm doing these on a size 0 needle. This is my, what do you call these? Do you guys enjoy this? Just watching me think about what things are called, because I always forget. What are these called, guys? You know what these are called. Knitter's Pride. They're not cubics. They are, I don't remember. They're the black needles with the metal tips. I remember when these first came out, Laura and Leslie of the Knit Girll's reviewed them, and back then, I think I have this straight, back then they had like ribbing on the shaft of the needle itself. It was like ridged. And so, because I remember a podcast episode where they went like this. And it like really bothered one of them because that noise was like kind of irking. And I remember them also talking about how the material is some kind of composite material, and it's like some kind of space-aged rocket scientist kind of material. I don't know what I'm talking about, you guys. Anyway, those are the needles that I'm using. So I did split the cake that I had left up over into 2 cakes so that I could just knit till the end. And I think I am going to run out and have to use contrasting yarn for the toe. So this one's going to start off with pink and go into yellow. And this one started off with purple and it's going to go into yellow. So my plan is I'm pretty much going to run out of these yarns before I get to the toe, I'm pretty sure. And they both end with yellow, so I have some of the yellow that I took off that I'm going to do for the toes. Super cool. So that's those. And my next work in progress is another pair of socks. What? I don't know what I'm doing here. So I started knitting a pair of socks for my husband Colin a really long time ago. I don't remember when, but it was a really long time ago, and I haven't touched these in a very long time. This is them. So I picked them up. They were in my UFO bin. I think probably I'd gotten to about here, and then I put them down before taking the work to figure out when I needed to start the toe. So I picked them back up, and I have the first sock mostly finished. So this is Regia Pairfect by Schockenmeyer. There's the tag. I can't tell you the colorway because these labels confuse me. but that's what it looks like. And it's the Pairfect, so it goes through one whole color progression before the yarn turns into the color progression starting all over again. And I used up the entire half of the skein for the sock. This is a 72 stitch count sock, and he's got really pretty big feet. So this is all I had left in this color progression before the yarn turned yellow, which is where it splits for the first sock and the second sock. So just enough yarn, which is awesome. So 72 stitch counts is what I did top down with 2x2 ribbing for the cuff, and then it's this cool stripe repeat, heel flap and gusset, and this very long foot. I have this taco progress keeper on it because if you've ever met my husband, which you probably haven't, you might know that he loves tacos. And I am knitting these on a size 1. I used to always knit my socks on size 1 needles. I started these back when I used to do that, so I don't know, was my gauge gonna change? Don't know, who cares? I don't care. He doesn't care. These are my Chiaogu mini twist interchangeable needles, my favorite sock needles. And so it may look like this one is almost done. Well, check it, you guys. I've already started on the second one. And that's because I've gotten to the point where I need to actually try it on him to make sure I'm cool to do a Kitchener, or to see if I need to do another couple rounds and make the toe a little pointier and longer. I did already knit this whole toe and then rip it back and re-knit it once because I started the toe just a teeny bit too early and the toe just wasn't long enough. Also, you know, that happened and the toe wasn't quite long enough, but I was like, I don't care. I'm still gonna Kitchener it and be done with it because I don't care. So I Kitchenered it and I got almost to the end and I realized that I had extra stitches on one needle and not enough stitches on the other needle. I don't know how that happened. But I just decided it was a sign from the universe that I needed to just rip the toe back, put in 2 more rounds of stockinette on the foot before doing the toe again, and fixing my stitch count on the needles so that it was even. And I did that, and I'm very proud of myself. And now I just have to try it on him and make sure that I'm good to go for the Kitchener. So I didn't want to wait though, because I haven't been able to try it on him in like 2 days because our paths keep not aligning to make this happen. So I just decided to get another pair of needles because I have like a million pairs of size 1 sock needles, and I started the second one. And these are also size 1s. They are my Haya Sharps. And that's what I have so far. It's a blue cuff. And I had to cast on twice to get the tail to match because the idea behind these socks is that they are going to be the same, but you have to get the tails to match. And they're about an inch off, but I don't care. So I rolled with it. Now I recaked this yarn because it was bothering me. So this yarn comes in those like big kind of rectangularly shaped skeins, like skeins, where you know what Regia yarn looks like when you get it. And you have to pull from the middle to make this work, and that really bothers me. I don't like pulling from the middle because I don't like collapsing yarn. So once I got to the second sock, I knit about half this cuff and I got sick of pulling from the middle of the collapsing skein. So I just took the other end of it and caked it while this was sitting on the other end of it, which is a little wonky to do because I had to make sure my stuff wasn't getting tangled. But I'm much happier working from this cake. And I think it looks cool. Right? Right? Okay. So that's that. Hi. Socks. For Colin. Finally. He's been waiting for me to make him a sweater for a very long time. And it kind of always goes like this. Finally, like this last week sometime, I was like, okay, I'm ready to make you a sweater. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out what you want. I made the mistake of inviting him over to browse Ravelry patterns with me, which is just, that kind of thing inspires decision paralysis in him. And he's just got overwhelmed and he was like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, you're right. I shouldn't have brought you in this far to the decision-making process. So what I decided we needed to do instead is for him to tell me, to describe to me what he wants in a sweater, help me pick yarn from a curated set of choices so he doesn't have too many choices, and then from there I'll either figure out a pattern to do or just I'm not really a person who like makes up my own sweater patterns, but I do have like the Ann Budd handy book of sweater patterns for knitters or whatever it is, and I think if I can't find a pattern that reflects what he wants, I can probably just make something up. Lofty goals, I don't know, but so knitting for him. I also have like all these ideas that I don't know why, but I'm starting to really want to knit for other people. I have two friends who are also men who want sweaters, and I'm like, maybe you should knit them a sweater. I don't know. I've been knitting myself a lot of sweaters lately. Maybe I should knit a sweater. Maybe it'd be interesting. I don't know. So I've been kind of thinking about that. And I actually, what prompted me to offer him his sweater is that I got really into the idea of knitting my friend a sweater because we were talking about like what he would want in a sweater, and I kind of got pumped for it. I was like, maybe I shouldn't, I really want to knit him a sweater. But I felt like I needed to knit Colin a sweater first because he's been waiting for so long for me to make him a sweater, and then if I just like go knit somebody else a sweater, he's just gonna be like, what the heck? So anyway, lots o' socks. I have one more work in progress, and it is a new sweater for me. I received a lovely gift from my friend Eun Young, who always sends me lovely gifts. Thank you so much, Eun Young. She sent me a pattern that she had purchased, like the actual physical pattern, and she sent it to me because she thought I might like it, and you were right. I really do like it. It's kind of exactly what I'm knitting right now, and it's the Nurtured pattern by Andrea Makery. Here it is. So it is a worsted weight crop top with an all-over texture. It is bottom up with raglan sleeves, and I've started it. I got this in the mail, I think last week, and that same day I started the project because I was so excited about it, and I had yarn in my stash that would work for it, and that's really exciting to me because I really try to make what I already have work for patterns that I want to knit, because I don't know, I feel this urgency to knit through my stash. Even though my stash is pretty small, I don't buy yarn like very often at all. And actually kind of my goal is to have no stash, I think. I think I would really like it if I knit through my whole stash, which again is relatively small, and then kind of started over with a more, with a more intentional stash, but kind of only buying yarn to knit with, like immediately, pretty much. I think that would be really cool if I just got rid of my stash. So the more that I can use up what I have, the happier I am. And this pattern called for worsted weight yarn. I have a sweater's quantity of worsted weight yarn that I had previously knit it's a Tin Can Knits cardigan pattern. I can't remember the name of it, but I will put it wherever. And I knit it. It didn't work for me. I didn't like it. I think I knit a size too small. I don't know though. I don't know. I just didn't like it. So I ripped it out, and the ripped out yarn, all crinkly, has been sitting in my stash for literally years, and so I'm finally using it to knit this sweater. So here's the yarn. This is Dreamin' Color Classy in the Chocolate Night colorway. I originally had, I believe, 5 skeins, which was 1,250 yards. I pretty much mostly have the same yardage. I have one full skein that I never broke into, so that's exciting. But the rest of it is like this, and then I have 5 more little cakes like this that were from my ripped out sweater. I ripped the yarn out from the sweater and just left it in cakes. I did not reskein it or wash it or anything, which is what you are supposed to do, but I do lots of things that I'm not supposed to do, so that's what I did, and it's been sitting in my stash like this for years. And it's fine. It's working. It's working for me. So this is what I did. So this is the tag. It's a worsted weight yarn. And on a sticky note, I measured what I had. I think what I did was I just weighed it and then calculated how many yards I had. So I've got 558 grams, which is more than 5 100-gram skeins. A lot of times when you buy a skein of yarn, it says it's 100 grams. And this is true with indie dyed yarn too. Like my yarn, it's 100 grams. But if you actually weigh it, oftentimes it's more than 100 grams. Just because, I don't know why. I don't know why that's like an industry thing, but I think it's probably because it's really hard to get an exact number. Also, interestingly, when you dye yarn, it adds a tiny amount of weight to the skein of yarn itself. Anyway, so I had 5 100-gram skeins, and when I ripped out from the sweater, I had 558 grams of yarn, plus 6 grams in scraps, which I think I have since thrown away. They were teeny, teeny, tiny little balls, but I have 1,133 yards, which is weird because that, I don't know, my math might be wrong. Whatever, who cares? It's gonna be fine. So here's what I have so far. Oh my goodness. This is the first sleeve. It is this all over texture pattern, which is done using slip stitches. And that's it so far. I didn't swatch. What I've decided to do is just use my sleeve as a swatch, because to swatch you were to get gauge on the stitch count. I mean, blah, blah, blah. The stitch pattern in the round. So I figured I would just start the sleeve and eventually I will block it and measure gauge and see how that goes. But I'm getting kind of devil may care with my gauging these days, so who knows? But I like it so far. It's, like I said, it's a slip stitch pattern and it's a really short repeat, so you do like this, you do the stitch pattern on one row and then something really simple on the next row, and then the stitch pattern on the next row but moved over one, like shifted one stitch so that it's offset. And so it's that kind of 4-row repeat. And of course, my tantrumy self, I did the first repeat, just the first 4 rows of this thing, and I was like, no, I am not gonna do this. That's way too much trouble to like keep track of like, which one am I on? Am I on the one where it starts here? Do I have to shift it one stitch? Like, no, nah, don't wanna do it. And then of course, I got 2 repeats into the pattern and I was like, oh, this is easy. Like, it's super easy to tell like which one you're supposed to be on. And I mean, yeah, you could count your rounds, but you're increasing because it's a sleeve, so it's always going to change, and you have to take that change into account when you're starting the pattern and do it in pattern and blah 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 blah. But it's like not hard at all. It's very mindless and it's very easy. So I'm very excited about this sweater. I think it's going to be really fun to work on. I am using my Licka short-tipped interchangeable needles. This is a size US 8. It's what the pattern calls for, so I decided to go with that for my sleeve swatch and see how it goes. I think it's going to be fine. Do you want to know what it looks like right now? Looks like this so far. I'm thinking I want the sleeves kind of like that, right? Okay, that's it. Oh, okay, so I have it in my Woodsy and Wild bag, which you have seen on this podcast many times. It has had some pins on it, but I have always known that I have had more pins. I just could not find them. And the other day I was looking through that closet right there where I throw all kinds of stuff that I don't want to deal with. And I was looking for this childhood cup and bowl and fork that I had that my mom gave me a long time ago, years ago, like just in case you ever have a kid, here's your old cup and bowl and fork set. And so I stuffed it in there a long time ago. And the other day I was like, I really want to like find that for Lucy. So I went looking for it. I found it. And when I found it, I also found all of my old pins. So I put all of them on my bag. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to do that thing where I give you a pin tour. I know I'm a late adopter, you guys. So I'm like a year late on this, like, look at all my pins, but whatever, we're going to do it. So this is my Woodsy and Wild bag, and I really like it. And I know I've shown you some of these before, but whatever. I don't remember who many of these are from, so sorry. But that's a snake. I'm a big reptile fan. That's a mermaid. That's a dinosaur in a sweater. I'm a big dinosaur fan, and I'm a big sweater fan. That's a koala. That's a bowl of yarn ramen. And that one, I will tell you, is from Nerdbird Makery because she's awesome, and you should definitely check out her and her stuff because her stuff is cool. That's a bat. And yes, to the viewer a long time ago, if you still watch the podcast, I still have gratitude to you because you told me that I had the pin upside down probably because bats don't hang right side up, they hang upside down. So I turned it around and it's still like that and I'm still grateful that you told me that. This pin says Gold Dust Woman because I'm a Stevie Nicks fan. My husband got me that for my birthday this last year. I don't think I ever showed that. This is my spooky pin. This is the first enamel pin I ever bought. And for my Deep Dark Night knit along that I hosted a Halloween or two ago, that I bought 2 of these pins and one of them was a prize. So if whoever won that pin still watches the podcast, hi, what are you doing with your pin? Do you like it? Are you using it? I'm using mine. We're twinsies. And this one's Pusheen. My husband got me this one as a birthday gift. Not this past year, but the year before. Okay, I'm done now. That's it. That's all my stuff. Show and tell. That's what, you know, I'm going to talk about this pretty soon. I'm getting pretty into YouTube and YouTubers and YouTube videos and stuff. And something that I feel like is so cool and unique about the knitting podcast world is that we have this format, right, that like many of us follow, and it's the show and tell format. And I know that it's been talked about before how like maybe it's getting like a little tired or like a lot of people do it, so it's a little repetitive and like all it is show and tell, and maybe like some people should do more topical things, like maybe more traditional YouTuber kind of styles. But I really like the show and tell format, like a lot. It's what drew me into knitting podcasts. And while I do think it would be really cool to have like more topical, to have people do more topical episodes, maybe in relation to knitting or like knitting related or tangential knitting stuff, or like how knitting relates to like other parts of the world, like social things and things like that. I still really like the show and tell format. I just love it. I love sharing what I'm working on. I love seeing what you're working on. It's so inspiring to me. It's like, I think it's what keeps me, it is what keeps my mojo going. Okay, that's over. Moving on. I am going to be having a shop update in the Moonstone Dyeworks shop, which can be found at moonstonedyeworks.com, link in the description box below. And it'll be tomorrow, which is Thursday, July something. It will be on the screen at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And I have one new colorway that I'm going to be adding to the shop, and I am also going to be adding a club sign up. I decided to do a club. I love other people's clubs, and I've always wanted to do one, and I don't really know why I haven't done one yet. I think it's just because I needed to be really inspired to do it, and I hadn't until right now. So I am super happy to announce I will be doing Moonstone Dyeworks' first club. So it is going to be the Cosmos. So it'll be the Cosmos Yarn Club, which pretty much means it'll be space themed, and it'll be a 3-month yarn club. It'll be August, September, and October. and signups will go up in the shop tomorrow at 10 a.m. If you're watching this late and you want it, definitely check it out because I'm going to leave those signups up for a little while. I don't think I'm going to sell out right away or anything like that. So if you're interested, go check out the shop, see if the signups are still open. Probably they will be. So yeah, I'm really stoked about that. And check out the listing for more details about it. I'm not going to go into all the detail stuff here, but it will be there, everything you want to know. And if something you want to know is not in the listing informationally, message me and ask me, and I will be happy to answer and probably update the listing if it's something I just missed, something I just left out. Anyway. Yep. Okay. So the other thing that I'm going to be putting in the shop tomorrow is my new colorway, which is Summer Lies. So that's a Magnetic Fields reference, which is a musical group that I very much like. And here it is. So it's pretty much a maroony, burgundy-y, mauvey, tonal, variegated, speckled mess. I like it a lot. I'm going to be having this only on one base this time. I did a whole bunch on my merino sock base, which is a fingering weight yarn, and it is merino, superwash merino and nylon. So if you're interested, go check it out tomorrow, Thursday, at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Okay. Moving on now to our last segment of the show, which is favorites. And, sorry, I'm rolling around a lot today. Let me get it comfy. So as I said before, and as I've talked about kind of a lot recently on the podcast, I've been getting really into YouTube more and more and more. I've been discovering new channels that I really love. And I thought I would share a few of them with you here. So this is 3 out of many that I really like. And there's just way too many to talk about. So I've chosen these 3. And I'm just going to get right into listing them and telling you why I like them. So the first one is Contrapoints. I am literally head over heels in love with Contrapoints. So much. So her channel is topical. Every episode takes on a different specific subject matter, and she kind of breaks it all down. It's informational. It's her opinion on things. It's really great. She is a trans woman, so many of the topics have to do with the LGBTQ community, but a lot of them are also just very political. And it's really great. She's funny and she's smart, and her dialogues are just so good. She's an ex-philosopher in academia, and so she uses a lot of these methods of discussing things that is common in philosophy. She does a lot of these internal monologues that she has different, okay, I'm all over the place. She has different characters. They're all really amazing. And the production value is really freaking fantastic. If you are into things like film, I think you would appreciate her videos, especially her more recent ones, just for that aspect. They're beautifully done. The sets are amazing. The costumes are amazing. The script is amazing. And so she does a lot of these internal dialogues, and she has these different characters, and many of the characters, as she says in some of her videos, are representative of some aspects of herself or of different ways of thinking within her community. And so she plays all the characters, and she'll be herself as one character, talking to herself as another character. And it's just really good. It's just really good. So I highly recommend that channel. Like I said, she does get very political. She does get, she's very self-deprecating, which I love. That's part of her humor. And she actually has a such a good video on comedy. It's called The Darkness. It's one of my favorite videos of hers. And she's very self-deprecating in a really self-reflective, really funny way. Some of my favorite types of humor is that kind of like self-deprecation humor. And anyway, she calls herself a social justice warrior. So a lot of her topics in her videos are about things related to society, social justice. She answers a lot of questions that you may have as somebody who is learning about our society and its social injustices. And it's entertaining, it's good, and it's really informational, and I love it. So that's my first recommendation, is Contrapoints. Second channel that I have been watching a lot of is T1J, and his channel, like Contrapoints, is topical. Each video is like, it's much less cinematic, but he sits down in front of the camera and he just talks about this topic for like 10 minutes. And also, like Contrapoints, most of his topics are political or socially driven. He talks a lot about race. He's a Black man, so he really goes into that subject matter a lot and talks about it in a whole bunch of different ways. Just like Contrapoints, and probably everything I'm going to talk about, it's pretty left-leaning. What I like about his video is that he goes into these subjects and he really talks about them in a very nuanced way, and he covers so many different small aspects of these bigger topics. And his videos are really fun to watch. He's also really funny, and he just makes these topics, he makes the discussion of these topics really approachable. And what else, another thing that I really like about his channel is that he takes the topic of something like racism and he discusses it in the form of talking about other things. So for instance, some of my favorite videos of his are where he talks about sitcoms. He has some episodes where he talks about racism in sitcoms. He'll talk about particular comedians, he'll talk about particular sitcoms, and he pretty much tells you that sitcoms are great. And if you know anything about me, you know I love sitcoms. I'm one of those people, I grew up in the 80s, and sitcoms kind of raised me. That's not true. My mom and dad raised me. I love them, they're great. But I was raised on sitcoms. Like, all of my, like, social learning, morality stuff all came from sitcoms, which is problematic. And he talks about this kind of stuff. Like, he loves sitcoms too, but he realizes that there's a lot of things wrong with them. And something that he introduces is this idea of, yeah, you can enjoy these things that are problematic, but like, use them as tools and really think about them. And I find that to me to be really profound, especially when it comes to things like sitcoms, to things like movies and stuff like that, because I love sitcoms and I love movies. And I think it's just such an important point to make that, yeah, sitcoms are fun and they can be really mindless and really just straight up fun, and that's it. But the fact is that things like sitcoms and other things like drama shows or whatever, I'm not that into drama shows, but a lot of us see these shows, and whether the shows are intentional about it or not, they're putting these ideas of morality, of social issues into like a huge number of American homes and non-American homes. But I think, I don't know, just the idea of taking something so like mundane and benign as the sitcom and like really treating it like something important, something that can be really thought about. And I don't know, I really like, that's when he really got me. He's like, he's talking about Roseanne. Anyway, so I love his channel. Check it out if you're interested in that kind of stuff too. And then the third one that I will recommend is Lindsay Ellis, and she is someone who does commentaries on media. Each of her episodes takes a movie or a show or a book or something, and she pretty much analyzes it. She breaks it down based on her background, her knowledge, her education, her opinion, and I like what she does. She does a lot of Disney movies, and if there was something else I was raised on other than sitcoms, it was Disney movies. I love Disney movies, but again, Disney movies are problematic. They're not great sometimes. They're really bad sometimes. And I don't know. I think it's okay to like things that can be problematic, but I also think it's important that we think about these things and think about why they're problematic and focus on that stuff and demand that people get better about that stuff. So anyway, she talks a lot about that kind of stuff in Disney movies and in other popular movies and media and stuff like that. So I've watched a lot less of her videos than the other two, but I'm in it with this kind of stuff right now. So that is it for my YouTube recommendations. I'm really falling hard for YouTuberdom. I don't know. I didn't even know that was a thing. I've been on YouTube for like 3 years, I think. I'm a YouTuber, I guess. I'm a YouTuber. So pretty much think about social issues. There's so many different ways to educate ourselves and to keep things like this in the forefront of our mind because it is important. And as we remain thoughtful about these types of things as we move through our lives in the world, let's all maybe think about what's important and not let our privilege and fragileness take us down. Anyway, I'm done. Okay. I hope that you are all having a fantastic summer. And I hope you enjoyed the episode today. If you did, I would not mind it if you gave it a thumbs up and subscribed if you haven't yet. I come out with a video every 2 weeks of show and tell knitting stuff and other recommendations and things of things that I am enjoying. If you are interested in the Yarn Club or in Summer Lies, go ahead and check out the shop tomorrow at 10 a.m. I would much appreciate that if you were interested and you did that. Have fun and stay awesome. Bye.